All right, let's dive into a really compelling story. It's a case that starts with what should have been a life-changing opportunity, but spirals into a 14-year legal battle that goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And really, this isn't just about a missed flight. It's about dignity, broken promises, and the incredible case of Juanito Lapuz versus Korean Airlines. Picture this. You've said your goodbyes, you've checked in all your luggage, you're literally walking up the stairs to get on the plane that's supposed to take you to a new life. And then, out of nowhere, an airline officer points right at you and just shouts those two words, down, down. And that's really the big question, isn't it? How did that one incredibly public, humiliating moment on November 8, 1980, ignite a legal firestorm that would go on to help define passenger rights for years? Well, let's get into it. To really understand the court case, we have to first understand the man who was at the very center of it all, and exactly what happened on that fateful day at the airport. So this is our guy, Juanito Lapuz. Now, he wasn't a tourist heading out on vacation. He was an overseas contract worker, an automotive electrician who had landed a huge one-year contract in Saudi Arabia. For him, this flight wasn't just a trip. It was his entire livelihood. It was everything. Now, what's so crucial here is that Lapuz did everything by the book. He followed every single procedure. Yeah, he started out as waitlisted, but then 2 passengers were no-shows, and he was officially given a seat. He checked in his suitcase, he checked his shoulder bag, he was cleared by customs, cleared by immigration, he even got on the shuttle bus that took him to the plane. I mean, by every possible measure, he was a confirmed passenger. And this is where his whole world just fell apart. He was literally steps away from the door of the plane when he was singled out in front of everyone and ordered off the stairs. His ticket was canceled right then and there. He missed the 2-week reporting deadline for his new job, and just like that, his opportunity vanished into thin air. But here's where it gets complicated. When Lapuz decided to sue for what happened, Korean Airlines came back with a completely different version of events. And this conflict became the central puzzle that the courts had to solve. So let's just lay these two stories out, side by side. On one hand, you have Lapuz. He says, look, I was confirmed, I was passenger number 157, I cleared every checkpoint, and my bags were already on the plane. But then you have Korean Airlines. They claimed it was all just a standby lottery. They said no, a supervisor named Perico was given priority for the one seat that opened up, and while Lapuz might have won some lottery for a potential second seat, that seat, well, it never actually became available. I mean, this is the classic he said, she said, or he said, they said scenario, but with massive financial and personal consequences. So how does a court possibly sift through all this and figure out what really happened? Well, that's what the next 14 years were all about. Now, Lapuz's fight for compensation and, frankly, to clear his name was anything but quick. It was a marathon, a long, winding journey through the entire Philippine judicial system. I mean, just look at this timeline. The incident happens in 1980. It took 10 full years just to get a ruling from the first court. 10 years! Then another 4 years for the case to go through the Court of Appeals and finally be settled by the Supreme Court. That's a 14-year fight for justice. Incredible. And what's really interesting is how the legal stakes kept changing. The first court, the RTC, awarded Lapuz over 272,000 pesos for his lost income, but gave him nothing, for the humiliation he went through. Then, the Court of Appeals did something really fascinating. They slashed the actual damages part way down, but they added 100,000 pesos for moral and exemplary damages, basically saying, yeah, the way you treated him was abusive, and that has a cost. So, why did the Supreme Court ultimately land on Lapuz's side? Well, it all boiled down to a really fundamental legal idea about the promise an airline makes to its passengers. The key concept here is something called the contract of carriage. And what the court said is that the moment an airline accepts you as a passenger, it's not just a simple transaction anymore. A special contract is formed. And that contract comes with a public duty, a promise, to get you to your destination safely and to treat you with respect. The court's logic here was just based on cold, hard evidence. They basically went down a checklist. Was his name on the manifest? Check. Did he clear all the checkpoints? Check. Was his luggage on the plane? Check. The court concluded that at that point, the contract of carriage was already perfected. It was a done deal. And Korean Airlines broke that contract the second they barred him from the flight. You know, this quote from the Supreme Court's decision really says it all. The business of flying people around creates a relation attended with a public duty. Shouting down at a paying customer? Well, that's about as clear a violation of the duty to treat people with kindness and respect as you can get. So let's get to the final verdict. After 14 long years, what did justice actually look like for Juanito Lapuz? And what was the bigger message the court was trying to send? For the actual damages, the lost money, the court settled on 60,000 pesos. This was specifically for his confirmed one-year contract. The court felt that claiming he would have gotten renewals was just too speculative, so this amount covered his guaranteed lost salary for that first year. But, and this is a big but, the courts kept that 100,000 peso award for moral and exemplary damages. Now, this wasn't about his salary. This was a penalty. The court specifically found that Korean Airlines acted in a wanton, fraudulent, reckless, oppressive, or malevolent manner. This was the price they had to pay for that behavior. And this brings us right back to the human heart of this whole story. The court said the airline's malice was crystal clear in how they treated him, like a patay gutom na contract worker. Now, that's a really powerful Tagalog phrase. It doesn't just mean a starving worker. It implies someone who is completely destitute, someone without any value. And it was that deep, profound insult to his dignity that the court found so unbelievably offensive. In the end, this ruling echoed far beyond just Juanito Lapuz and Korean Airlines. It became a powerful statement about a group of people who were absolutely vital to the country's economy. And this right here, this is the final profound takeaway. The Supreme Court used this case to send a loud and clear message. It explicitly recognized the sacrifices of overseas contract workers and promised to exert every effort to protect their rights and their dignity. A single shout on an airplane staircase ultimately led to a powerful affirmation that justice applies to every single person, no matter their station in life.